What up, everybody? Good morning. Happy Halloween. Dan Kasper Show's on the air. Radio dials. You got a couple of those babies. 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also, check us out online at sportstalk1051.com. Got the Google and Alexa home devices, the Sports Talk app, the video stream up on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all over the place. But hopefully, you all had a fantastic weekend. And you're ready to hit up this Halloween, the last day of October. It sure don't feel like it, but yeah, tomorrow it's already going to be November. Holy moly, time flying on by. But you know what? Don't feel like it too with this weather coming up here, man. But appreciate you making us part of your starts, not only on this day, but to begin your week. So, what's on the game plan here this morning? Yep, Green Bay dropping their fourth game in a row to the Buffalo Bills. Sunday Night Football last night. 27-17. Packers kind of making it a little bit interesting there towards the end. But Mason Crosby missing the long field goal 55-yarder. Then Green Bay obviously would have had to recover the onside kick and then get a shot there. But I guess, one thing, I think a lot of us thought Green Bay would lose this game, right? Or at least realistically, we were all rooting for an upset and hoping something could happen. But, and I'm not one for moral victories by any means. I'm especially when your goals are like, to win a Super Bowl or to win a championship and that sort of thing. But was there anything positive that you could take away from this game? Anything that, and I hate to say this 8 weeks into the season because we're at the halfway mark and you're 3-5, but is there anything that you could take away from this game that on a positive side that you could kind of like, okay, they can build upon? Because we're going to get to some of the negatives here. Believe me, there's a few of them, maybe more than a few in your opinion. But is there anything whatsoever? Aaron Rodgers, 19 of 30, over 200 yards passing, 203, 2 touchdowns, that interception towards the end there. Packers defense, couple of interceptions, Rasul Douglas, Jair Alexander. Aaron Jones, 20 carries for 143 yards, 7.2 average per carry. Romeo Doubs with a couple of highlight catches, including that touchdown catch. Torrey with his touchdown catch, one catch for 37 yards was that touchdown there. Robert Tonyan, 5 catches, 35 yards. We knew Green Bay was going into this game shorthanded in the wide receiver department. It got shorthanded right away with Christian Watson going out with a concussion. So, anything positive? Green Bay held Buffalo to just 3 points in the second half. What do you think? So we're going to hit this up in a couple of different ways here. But the only numbers that really matter at this point, Green Bay 3-5. Falling a little bit further down. Now we begin the third quarter of the season. If you kind of look at it. And the next 4 games coming up for Green Bay, well, they ain't going to get any easier. At Detroit this coming weekend, home against Dallas, short week against Tennessee and Derrick Henry, and then you're at Philly. That's your next quarter-ish, about halfway-ish right now. We know, odd number, that sort of thing. But you look at the rest of the NFC, and maybe there is just a little bit of a glimmer of a hope. Just a skosh. Not much, but just a skosh. Because if you kind of look at where things stand, Green Bay 11th, they're tied with Tampa Bay and Arizona and New Orleans and the Bears at 3-5. Tampa Bay right now holds the tiebreaker over Green Bay and Arizona based on best win percentage in conference games. So that's kind of why if you're looking at it, it's like, well, what has Tampa got it over Green Bay head to head? That's kind of how it breaks down there, I suppose. Rams with another loss. They're at 3-4. The Commanders getting victory, so they move up 4-4. San Francisco is holding on to that final playoff spot. At that seventh spot at a 4-4. So I mean 4-4. Green Bay's 3-5. Kind of looking at it that way, if you will. So they're not out of it. They're not out of it. But this third quarter of the season, it'd be tough. And do you have any confidence? Is there anything that you saw from that game last night that maybe gives you confidence in these next few games here? So, plenty of football chats coming up with that. We'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit. At least, though, Wisconsin, we've got the Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks remain undefeated, the only undefeated team in the NBA, picking up wins against the Hawks and the Knicks. They'll be back at it again tonight against the Detroit Pistons in a back-to-back. Looking at the Greek Creek, if we go back to the game against, I guess we can go back to the Hawks. The latest one there, Giannis, 34 points. Got some help from Drew Holiday, 34 points as well, plus 12 assists. Go with the Knicks game there too. Giannis, still 30 points, 14 rebounds, 9 assists, 1 dime away from a triple-double. So the Bucks continuing their fantastic start to the season while missing a couple of key players. Chris Middleton, Pat Connaughton coming off the bench. Joe Ingles, their free agent acquisition, was supposed to help out with 3-point shooting. And right now the Bucks are getting it done without him. Getting it done. So, hey, at least we got this Wisconsin, right? At least we got the Bucks going. So the pace for 82-0 is still intact for this Bucks team. So we'll recap a good weekend for the Bucks and take a look at their matchup with Detroit, the first in a kind of back-to-back. They got the day off tomorrow, but they play Detroit again on Wednesday in Milwaukee before a quick trip to Minnesota. Then back home on Saturday against OKC. Then next week they're all on the road against Atlanta, OKC, and the Spurs. So we'll chat some hoops with the Bucks and such. We'll catch up on some of the goings on the local and state level with Justice Cleveland, sports director extraordinaire, WEAU 13 News. Dude was making the rounds all weekend across the state, checking out some high school football, checking out some volleyball, checking out some cross country, checking out some college hoops yesterday in a scrimmage with the Badgers and the Blue Golds. So JC, hopefully he'll be up and at it this morning with us, but busy man, covering all that stuff around the weekend. So we'll catch up with him in the 7 o'clock hour there. So we'll get to that. We got a little studs and duds. We'll hit that up at 8:05. Couple new segments coming up. We'll do a little motivational Monday. Who, like, as in terms of players or teams, who was like, kind of like that, that carrying your team on your back sort of thing, like motivating you to hit this weekend. Like that guy was motivated to get the job done, or that team was motivated to get the job done. So we'll hit that up on coming up at about 7:05. Then we got another one called Fired Up. What's got you fired up this morning? We'll hit that up about 8:20. With it being Halloween too, let's have a little fun with this. Who are the scariest teams and scariest players of all time in your opinion? You can go back to, whatever, but scariest teams or maybe a scariest player of all times in terms of like, man, I guess you could take it a couple different ways. Like, dude, I don't want to meet that player in an alley one-on-one, or maybe just, on the playing surface, like, God, that dude scared me all the time going up against him. My favorite team, just like it was going to be a long day going up against that player. Or maybe just in general, like, yeah, that dude was a bad man. He was scary. Didn't matter if he was playing my team or not. Every time he hit the field or hit the court, he was just a scary person. Scary person. So we'll get to that. And if anybody has any really good Halloween stories, text those babies on over, okay? Or tweet them or Facebook them. I'm talking like good ones. You got any like really creepy stories? Come on, share. Well, you can remain anonymous if you want. You can do that too. but send those babies on over, all right? I want to hear them. Should mention 2 World Series split up. Entertaining game 1. Phillies getting game 1 against the Astros. Astros bouncing back, though, and getting game 2. So we'll get game 3 tonight between the Astros and the Phillies. So Astros feed streak ending with that loss in game 1. But yeah, that's 2. So plenty to get to here. Let's jump into it. Opening drive here this morning, recapping the late game last night. Packers, Bills. We're about the halfway mark now of the season. 3-5. Not out of with the way the NFC is kind of playing out right now this year. Green Bay's not out of it at the halfway mark. Plenty of other teams have started the year 3-5, made the postseason. Heck, there's been a couple teams of late that have started the season 1-5 and have made the postseason. But this third quarter of the season's going to be a little tough coming up here for Green Bay. At Detroit, and you got Dallas at home, Tennessee at home, and then you got Philly right after Thanksgiving on the road. So, yeah. But is there anything that you can kind of take away from last night in a positive? Well, we'll get to the negatives. Don't worry. There's a few of them. But is there anything? I want you guys to kind of rack your brains and kind of start it off on a positive note here. And I'm not one for moral victories. I'm not. But is there anything from last night that you can take away as a positive? Was there something that you seen last night? It's like, okay, build upon that. Continue to do that. Was it maybe Romeo Doubs? Was it maybe sticking with the running game? They ran the ball a lot last night, right? What are your thoughts? Hit me up. All right, so let's take that first break. And then coming up on the opening drive, we'll open up this Halloween talking Packers, Bills after these few words. Colder temps are on the horizon, but some of us kind of figured that once we've had a couple cold days here and there. And you probably knew that without looking at the calendar. That's because you maybe started to feel that pain in your knee again, which helps you forecast the temperature. While that pain in your knee may make a reliable weather forecaster, in your opinion, it should also be a reminder for you to make an appointment at Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine to get that pain checked out. Dr. Crow joins us every Friday for Inside the Training Room. Start today by visiting cvosm.com and start living that pain-free life. All right, it's opening drive this morning. Talking Packers, Bills. Packers falling to the Buffalo Bills. Maybe the majority of us Packers fans, that sort of thing, kind of already had this one chalked up as a loss, maybe even before the season started. So maybe the disappointment level isn't as much. But let's still break it down here, and we still got some stuff to point out here on the negative side of things. But if there was anything that was positive, Mike McCarthy positive. But if there was anything positive you could take away from this game, and then I'm not trying to say moral victories or anything like that, but if there was something that from this game you're like, all right, you know what, good job, guys, good little credit there. I think the big thing that jumps out is the running game. I mean, Aaron Jones was just he was a man running with a purpose last night. We went through those numbers already, but in case you missed it and you don't know what they were, dude had 20 carries for 143 yards, 7.2 average. That's pretty darn good against Buffalo's defensive line up there. I mean, they were having their way with the offensive line in terms of pass protection and such. You had Ed Oliver up there, those guys. So Aaron Jones, 20 carries for 143 yards with an average of 7.2. I mean, that's stud worth. Aaron Jones right now is 5th in the league in rushing at 575 yards. 7th in the league in terms of average at 5.9, but I'm sure if we kind of looked it up and looked at other ones, I'd like to know the minimum rushing attempts on that one, if you know what I mean. If you know what I'm getting at. So I think that to me is a positive looking at this. I mean, we have how many weeks? Give the ball to Jones. Give the ball to Jones. And then we got that. 20 carries. I think if you look at Romeo Doubs, 4 catches for 62 yards with that touchdown. A couple of great catches. We know the touchdown one, the one on the sideline later in the game too. That's a positive. The other rookie, Samari, with the catch. And I think not only with just because he had a touchdown catch, but the adjustment that he made on that catch. The broken down play, like Collinsworth was pointing out last night. But adjusting, changing up his route to get open. Rodgers dancing around a little bit, scrambling there a little bit. Rodgers finding him down the middle. So not necessarily just the touchdown, but the adjustment he made on that touchdown. That to me was positive. And we saw I haven't seen the snap counts yet. I'm sure they're going to be coming out a little bit later on this morning. But it seemed like, too, Josiah DeGuara was in quite a bit. And mostly like for blocking and protection and that sort of thing. So it seemed like Green Bay was, and it could have been just based purely on the fact that, well, look at the receivers they had active. So they went a little bit bigger, a little bit more tight end action there. But I know kind of looking at Packers Twitter throughout the week was like, hey, let's get 81 maybe more involved in the game. We haven't really seen that H-back, fullback type role that we thought we were going to see with Josiah DeGuara. You're thinking of the Shanahan offense. You're thinking about and like San Francisco, how they utilize their fullbacks and such. Haven't really seen a whole lot of that, but we saw 81 lined up quite a bit last night. And And, maybe just for blocking protections, but also could be the fact that, they were really shorthanded on the wide receiver depth chart, so they went a little bit bigger. Defensively, some of the positives, I think, you look at it, Bills, you held them to just 3 points in the second half. We're able to get a couple of picks there. Now, kind of those interceptions kind of, kept Green Bay in the game there, but after Rasul Douglas won first play, then it's tip ball interception there, so you weren't able to do anything. Then Jair's pick down at the 5, stopping Buffalo from putting up more points, whether it was going to be a field goal or a touchdown. So it kind of gave Green Bay a little bit of chance. It wasn't, closed case there. If they make that field goal, then you're an onside kick away from potentially getting touchdown. Yeah, ifs, whats, could, blah, blah, blah. I understand that. But, getting a couple of picks there. So those to me were kind of some of the positives that you hope to kind of build on, right? All right, Romeo Doubs. We know rookie wide receivers are going to have their ups and downs. That's just something we're going to have to live with in this season. Ups and downs. Feel bad for Christian Watson. Gets back in. Got a speed guy. Maybe he can do some different things and create some misdirections with the jet sweeps. Can have a little bit of deep ball, and then he gets a concussion on the catch that he makes. I mean, the guy just cannot catch a break health-wise. But maybe this is, hey, maybe we're going to get Samori Toure involved a little bit more. Remember, Aaron was talking about him in minicamp. And if he's going to make adjustments like that, like on that play, that's something that Aaron's been talking about. Maybe we see the kid from Nebraska a little bit more here. Because Sammy Watkins, I mean, he's targeted once last night. 1 catch for 3 yards, for crying out loud. That's it. I mean, he isn't really providing anything at this point. Nothing. Zip. And, just credit to Green Bay, too, maybe for just sticking with that run game. Just pounding it, sticking with it. But, and then I came away feeling like this was a solid, good offensive plan. It's just the defense was just a couple drives that they were a couple drives away from it being like a solid offensive game. But you know what I mean? Like if Green Bay's defense would have been able to make a couple stops there, second quarter, Buffalo put up 17 points, right? I mean, it was after that first drive. I think Buffalo scored on 5 consecutive drives or something like that, 4 or 5 consecutive drives. Just a couple of drives from if that Packers defense could have just made some stops, then maybe this game is something. Maybe. Just maybe. But it was that first half, Buffalo's offense. I mean, it looked like they were just cruising. They were cruising. And a couple of things stood out to me in terms of like the thumbs down, if you will. Love Rashawn Gary. I love Rashawn Gary. I think he is a talented pass rusher. I mean, you look at the pass rushing percentages. You look at all that. He's up there. But the guy has got to set an edge and stop with the consistent over pursuing, especially when you're going up against a quarterback who's not afraid to run the football. I mean, there was a few times last night, I think you all can kind of, go in your memory bank there, where Rashawn Gary's just going straight up the field. And Josh Allen is willing. He's just able to, all right, make a couple steps. He can step it up, and he can either run or he can continue to look down the field. I mean, it was just like, you cannot continue to give quarterbacks, especially quarterbacks who can beat you with their legs, that free opportunity to step up, and there's wide green pastures on the edge. And then you factor it in, too, when you have a safety in Darnell Savage, who to put it lightly, struggles with tackling. I mean, that was if he watched that or if they're going to rewatch that, yeah, Darnell. I don't know what you could say that about that tackling performance other than subpar, easily subpar. It was not good. I mean, when you have a defense who's just kind of struggling or looks like they're unwilling to make some big tackles out there, especially with one of them being your safety, whew, there was not some good highlights from Darnell Savage last night. No. And then you kind of, I mean, obviously with the inside linebackers, your two starters going down, Devondre Campbell leaving with a knee injury, Quay Walker getting ejected. So then you're down to, McDuffie, who I like McDuffie, but it's you're thrusting him into that role right away. Isaiah McDuffie, second-year kid from Boston College, and Eric Wilson, who you kind of brought on mostly for special teams play, had plenty of experience though with Minnesota. Remember, Chris Barnes is still out with an injury, so yeah, a little inexperience on that end. And then you kind of look at, and I know Matt Schneidman, who covers the Packers for the Athletic, posted this up earlier this morning. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Last night wasn't the first time this season an opposing wide receiver one has sauteed other Packers defensive backs, while the corner they're paying more per year than any corner in NFL history has locked down someone far less dangerous. Coaching malpractice from Joe Barry again. And he's referring to the next gen stats from Jair Alexander last night. Jair Alexander was aligned across Gabe Davis on 14 of 23 routes. Alexander had a pick and did not allow a reception on 4 targets to Davis as the nearest defender. So again, people are questioning why wasn't Jair Alexander shadowing maybe Stephon Diggs after we saw him go up against Terry McLaurin, and McLaurin had a day. Jets, Garrett Wilson, but then Diggs kind of back to maybe the weeks prior. When you look at Diggs' numbers, 6 catches on 8 targets for 108 yards, longest being that 53-yarder and a touchdown. The next highest, you have to look at James Cook, who had that 1 catch for 41 yards, and then it was Gabe Davis for 2 catches for 35. Now, I don't know if the pregame trash talking had anything to do with it. We're like, all right, we're going to keep Jair off that so they don't have any bickering and trash talk so it gets out of hand. I don't know if that played into it, but if it did play into it, I'm not buying that. I mean, come on. Come on. You gotta try. You can't do that. Right? You can't do that. But it's bringing questions again. What was the deal? So, I mean, maybe we'll kind of get Matt LaFleur's thoughts on that later on today when he talks to the media. I think Joe Barry's later on in the week and such, but yeah. So, what are some of your positives? What are some of your negatives? That sort of thing from this game. Offensive line again had to be reshuffled with no Elton Jenkins. Suffered a foot injury in practice. So Zach Tom, after getting the start at left tackle last week, the rookie from Wake Forest, gets the start at left guard. David Bakhtiari plays the game. David Bakhtiari, I thought, did a solid job too. When Von Miller was lined up over on David Bakhtiari, I thought David did a tremendous job. You didn't really hear a whole lot about Von Miller until he was lined up on the right side. And really, you heard about him. It was at that 4th and 1 play where he just it seemed like he pushed the Packers offensive lineman into It's like just go down the line, and then it was like a domino effect, and then they kind of contributed to stopping Aaron Jones short on that fourth. But David Bakhtiari, I thought had a solid game last night, especially when he was lined up against Von Miller. But that offensive line has just been plug and play guys left and right. They've had no continuity over there. Just nothing. Just got to get those guys healthy so they can get on the field all together. I think we're still waiting to see, okay, Bach, Jenkins, Myers, Runyon, Yash. We haven't seen that yet. Haven't seen it yet. Will we see it against Detroit? Who the heck knows at this point? But Buffalo's front was kind of having their way in terms of the pass rush against Green Bay. Now, Aaron only did get 2 sacks, was sacked twice last night. It's good to see Aaron kind of showing some of the wheels too. Running the ball and picking up some firsts or picking up some big yardages. I like seeing that a little bit. Keeping him honest. So, I don't, again, I'm not into moral victories. I'm not into that. But there definitely was some things last night where it's like, okay. There was some stuff we liked. I think, in the offensive game plan, we saw them commit to the running game. I mean, Green Bay technically ran the ball for 31 times when you're talking about if you include Aaron's one scamper on there. Passed the ball for 30. They stuck with it. It was just maybe a couple of defensive possessions. If they would have came up with a couple stops, this game might be different. Now, that's assuming everything on Green Bay's offense would have kind of stayed the same or that sort of thing. That's a big assumption there. But questions now. I mean, tomorrow's the trade deadline, you guys. Should Green Bay make a move? They're 3-5. All the insiders, every network out there is saying Green Bay's calling on wide receivers. That they're making phone calls, that they're inquiring. How many times have we heard that, though, too? You're at 3-5. The last playoff spot, if you want to take a look at that, about halfway through the season, San Francisco's at 4-4. And that's you look at the NFC West, it could go back and forth there. You still got Seattle leading that division. The Rams are 3-4. San Francisco 4-4. You look at the NFC East. Okay, the Giants got a loss. Do you trust them to finish out this season strong, that they can pick up a wild card spot? Dallas. So they're not out of it. They're about a game and a half-ish, if you want to count in tiebreakers and that, from, getting back into this thing. It's a tough schedule coming up, though. Would you like to see the Green Bay Packers make a move by the deadline to acquire a wide receiver that maybe can give you a little bit of a deep threat there? Aaron Rodgers said last night that, to win games, they're going to have to be able to throw down the field a little bit more. And I don't think, and some people are like, oh, don't get away from the run game. I don't think he was saying get away from the run game and get back to, chucking the ball down the field all the time. It's just to have that option to, have defenses maybe respect a little bit from that they got a guy that you can go down the field with on a consistent basis. Have that option. Because right now, Romeo Doubs made a couple great catches. Samari with that great route adjustment. But maybe just that consistent presence down there. So, there were some people on like the social media is like freaking out. I was like, Aaron wants to start throwing the ball again. And I don't think that's what he was referring to. He was referring to just the ability or just to have that option that they've got a guy that, because like last night when they're down, maybe the Packers of the past, they could like chuck it and try to get back into that ball game really quick. Can't. with this current team. Just can't. So, with the trade deadline tomorrow, do you want to see this team make a move, or are you of the fact like, you know what? I just don't see them making a push. I don't see them getting into the dance. Save that draft capital and just play out the year and continue to give rookies some more reps. The Dobbs, the Samaris, the Watsons when he's healthy. What do you think? Should they do it or not? Should Goody essentially push more chips in? More chips into the middle? That's a tough one. And I think the tough part of it too is like, I don't know, I kind of feel like, okay, if we knew like A-Rod was going to be coming back next year, maybe you can acquire a guy like a Brandon Cooks who's under contract for another year for some big money. But no. Broncos went in yesterday in London. Does that kind of change their mindset about whether they're going to be sellers like a Jerry Jeudy or such? Heck, DJ Moore just had a huge touchdown. I mean, DJ Moore, anybody didn't see that with that touchdown pass at the end of the game yesterday. Now Atlanta still won it in overtime, but it's like Packers fans like, oh, DJ Moore, that's a lot of money. And I don't think Carolina's moving on from him by any means. But if we want to be greedy, I'd like that one. Just saying. But do you want to see Green Bay make that move? Or do they, we've been focusing on wide receivers so much. Do they need to make a move somewhere else? Do they need to get better help up front on the defensive line to stop the run on a consistent basis? Because it almost felt like last night, it's like, if Buffalo just wants to run the football, they were having some success with it. Singletary had 14 carries for 67 yards with a 4.8 average. That's pretty darn solid. James Cook, 5 carries, 35 yards, 7 per carry. Count Josh Allen's in there, 6 carries, 49 yards, 8.2. We've been focusing so much on wide receiver. Would maybe another one is, do you want them to add another defensive lineman up there? Because maybe the defensive line hasn't been playing up to the expectations or the thoughts that you had heading into this year. I'll admit it. The defensive line isn't really playing up to the expectations I thought. I kind of thought that would have been one of the strongest groups with depth-wise, but outside Kenny Clark, it's been pretty darn inconsistent up there. Maybe that's another position of need. Figure it out. All right, we got to take a quick break. Then we're going to finish up the first hour here. But your thoughts? Did you taking anything away? What are some of the positives that you're taking away from the game last night? And I guess I'll throw it. Do you want Green Bay to make a trade by tomorrow? We are heading into the busy driving season, believe it or not, because, well, tomorrow is going to be November. The holidays are coming up, and while you're planning your trips and visits, don't forget about one important thing when it comes to making those trips and visits. That's stopping by ASAP Used Auto Parts and getting your vehicle ready to hit the road. This busy travel season also comes with the changing of the seasons to winter, which means snow and colder temperatures. So it's even more important to make sure your vehicle is ready for all these visits coming up. It can get a little hectic around this time of year if you're trying to juggle a bunch of different things on your calendar, but things can get even more stressful if you don't take care of that vehicle of yours. So if you need those new tires on your vehicle, ASAP Used Auto Parts offers a wide variety of tires to choose from, all at the best prices in the Chippewa Valley. And don't get stranded because of a dead battery. ASAP Used Auto Parts can hook you up with a new battery to help make sure your vehicle starts on those cold days. And do you need an oil change? Yep, they do that too. Plus, a wide selection of high quality used auto parts to help you save some money because you're going to need that extra money for your travel and your gifts. So while you're planning your holiday traveling, don't forget to plan for your vehicle. Let ASAP Used Auto Parts help take some of that stress off your plate and get your vehicle ready for this winter. Let's take a quick phone call. We haven't heard from him in a while. Good morning, C-Bomb. What's going on? I'm good, man. A little tired, little, trying to get through the morning here, but all is well. How are you? Yeah, that's okay. I mean, yeah, I mean, losses against Giants, Jets, and Washington. I feel better about loss than I did those other three. You're right. I'd agree with that. We are hoping here in a couple weeks, details to come, but it will be this month. So I'll keep you posted. Right? No kidding. They might have to have a couple kegs on tap. What? Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Did you get the feeling that maybe Aaron was just letting it rip and maybe trusting the younger wide receivers a little bit more last night? Maybe because he's like, I've got nothing. Well, I've got to. Otherwise, it's just going to be another one of those days. I mean, you look at those throws to Romeo and such. Did you get that kind of I know it might have been just a small sample size, but I don't know. I kind of felt like he was letting it rip a little bit more and maybe starting or maybe just kind of like trying to show a little bit of trust in those young receivers last night. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that Tunyon one, that was not offensive pass interference. I mean, good lord. Holy moly. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let me ask you, do you think before I let you go, do you want him to make a trade before tomorrow? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Would you give a second round pickup for Brandon Cooks? Mm-hmm. Week 8 or week 9 next week now. So mm-hmm. No, you know you kind of mentioned something that I thought of last was like, okay, if you do a wide receiver, how is you, you don't really have a grace period to like earn that trust of Aaron Wright, and if that's going to be the case, well, is it is it worth making that pick there? You know, you look at Brandon Cook's numbers. I mean, the guy has been pretty darn consistent throughout his career. I mean, every year besides 2 of them, he had over 1,000 yards receiving, but he's also played on like 4 different teams. I don't know, but hey, he did play in Houston with Randall Cobb. Get Randall Cobb's insight on Brandon Cooks. See what his thoughts are on him. There you go. Hey, dude, appreciate the phone call. I gotta let you go. We're at the top, so you have a good day, bud. You too, bud. There you go. There's C-Bomb hopping off here. We got surveyor also saying, sorry, but we're halfway through the season. Let's see how the rest of the season goes with what we have and retool for next year. It was just nice to see them compete and control time of possession. It's the only way we start winning games. We should not give up draft capital for a mid-range, overpriced wide receiver that will not be able to do anything Romeo isn't doing right now. You bring in a new guy, and that can have horrible ramifications on the young guys. Now, surveyor, let me follow that up with, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you, like a few weeks ago, mention bringing in Brandon Cooks? Are you saying now, like, no, just let's scrap that. Let's not send over maybe a second or a third round pick for a guy like Brandon Cooks. Let's just ride with the guys that we got right now and get them no more opportunities and grow that way. Quick tweets. Is it Paul? That's a lot of names on there. How many first rounders or starters on the D? To be honest, this L doesn't feel as bad. They played decent versus a great team. The other 3 L's losses hurt because, they are way better or should be better than Washington and the 2 New York teams. Have a great show. Love listening. Go Pack Go. Well, thanks, Paul. All right, 1 hour in already. We got to hit up some Bucks talk too, because that's the one team in this great state of ours of Wisconsin that's actually getting some W's. 5-0 start to kick off their season, or I should say tip off their season. They're back at it tonight against Detroit. We're going to kick off the next hour, though, with a little motivational Monday after this quick break. All right, second hour kicking off on this Monday morning. What up, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in, however and wherever you may be tuning in on this Halloween day. Don't forget, if you got any good Halloween stories, send those babies on over, and we're kind of, I guess, question of the day, if you will. Who's the scariest team or scariest player you've ever seen before? That's my creepy voice. Justice can do a better creepy voice than me, though. Happy Halloween, buddy.
I am a creepy person.
No, I figured you'd have like the sound effects and everything lined up.
Why would you think that?
There you go. I like it. Mr. Worldwide, JC and EC2. Appreciate you hopping on after a really, really busy weekend too, buddy. I know you got to be a little exhausted, a little tired.
It is. It's usually the busiest weekend of the year. It's always the one right before Halloween or Halloween weekend that you've got a lot of. Am I still echoing here?
A little bit, yeah.
I don't know how that's happening, but is that better?
It is. Yep.
I got to crawl out of this cave and get back to my microphone. But yeah, it's always a crazy weekend. You've got sectional volleyball, sectional soccer. You throw in all the college stuff also going on as well. So yeah, it was crazy, but that's what you get into the business for. It's one of those weekends where you're earning your money because you're going to be running around. I'd say cross country too. I even forgotten I was there. So
yeah.
Yeah, so it was crazy.
It was. I want to kick off this hour doing something new called a little motivational Monday, which kind of like you can pick your player or team that just kind of like carried their team on their back, or they just like balled out. That was motivating. I went Aaron Jones and Romeo Dobbs, but I'm also going JC and EC because as what you were saying, man, I was following you on Twitter. You're in Rapids, you're in Merrill, you're in Madison. I mean, you're like going all across the state. So your motivational Monday, you're part of my pick there too.
Oh, well, thank you very much. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's fun though too to get to see all those places. That was the first time I'd ever been to Merrill.
Really?
For a sporting event.
Wow,
so
okay.
I can say I've been to the heated rival for Dan Kasper, the Merrill Blue Jays. So yeah, it was really neat. And it's great to see these teams that are, especially at state cross country, culmination of all their hard work. And then to see teams that are advancing onto state volleyball as well, it's really awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, let's start off with all that. So you were at cross country. How did Eau Claire Memorial do at state cross country at the Ridges?
The boys team ends up finishing 4th. And the girls team, I can't remember the exact spot that they finished, but they did great. They were missing their top runner, Elizabeth Anderson, who was out with injury. So, it was going to be tough without your top senior there at state. And, they missed her, and obviously tough for her not to be able to run there. But they did great as well. So it was really a perfect day.
Yeah.
If you're going to have state cross country, you couldn't ask for a better day, in the 60 degrees, sunny out there at the Ridges. And yeah, just a great event. CFC, Cochran Fountain City, had a couple of individual champions as well. And just, really good showings from a lot of our local athletes. So congratulations to them all.
Definitely. And then you mentioned volleyball. You got quite a few local teams going over there for volleyball. So that was another busy Saturday night. I know Chi High's going, McDonald's going. I mean, we got good representation over there.
Yeah, that Chi High River Falls matchup, one of the, just a classic matchup, goes 5 sets. Chippewa Falls, the Cardiac Cardinals, as you can call them, they find a way and to win 17-15 in that 5th set. That's just amazing. I think they were up like 13-11. I remember Brandon tweeted out, and then all of a sudden it was 13-13, and that's where a team can, lose that momentum really easily, and River Falls could have taken it, but yeah, Chippewa Falls, first ever trip to state, so congratulations to them. And then right across the street, you got McDonald making their 3rd straight trip and a chance now to defend their D4 title. And then right up the road, something's in the water in Chippewa County there. Bloomer, making their 2nd trip to state. They made it in 2019. I think if I was doing my math, a lot of those girls that are seniors would have been freshmen on that team. So kind of a neat little way to, bookend their careers with the first trip to state. A lot of them were probably playing JV, but still, and then end it with a trip to state as well. So yeah, congratulations to all those teams, and big week coming up at the Rush Center in Green Bay.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And then I know, was it Hudson Soccer's going back to state again this year too?
Yes, that third straight year. If there's a sport with a goal on it, Hudson seems to have streaks of making it to state. So yeah, just a great team. And we saw them on Friday night, did like an epic battle, not Friday night, Thursday night with Eau Claire Memorial. I mean, those teams, it's very similar to hockey, how those two teams, unfortunately, only one of them can make it to state because they both are usually worthy of doing it. So yeah, Hudson doing it again, and we'll see what they can do down in Milwaukee. They're starting on probably Friday, I believe, Thursday or Friday.
On the Hudson's football team, though, got upset by Appleton North. You know, the 6th seed. If we're moving to high school football here, you know, they defeated Chippewa Falls in the first round. Then Hudson was a 2 seed. Appleton North shutting them out. So, you know, Hudson, their football team ends, but you know, Division II, River Falls continues. They go up against West De Pere, kind of in your neck of the woods over there, JC.
Yeah, and that was a big comeback for River Falls. They were down in that matchup against Marshfield. Marshfield came out and I think was up by, I believe, 14 at one point or 12. And then River Falls just turned it on in the second half to get the win and showing why you're a number 1 seed. So you go back to that Hudson game too. That Appleton North team, I mean, that's 2 games in a row that they've shut out Big River's opponents, and good Big River's opponents. So that team's, you know, hitting their stride at the right point. So yeah, it's tough to see a Big River team go out like that. But that Appleton North team, I don't know. It must have been something. That 6th seed doesn't seem right. But then they'll play Bayport. Not that we really, you know, obviously that's not our area anymore. But yeah, and then you move on. Division III, Rice Lake has a chance to try to get back to state again.
Yep.
You know, and with Rice Lake teams, you never, as soon as the playoffs start, you almost every one of them has a chance to get to sectionals. In football, they play in the middle border, which still has teams bigger than them. But in, you know, obviously they play Big Rivers, and soccer, they lost in the sectional final this weekend as well. But yeah, so they'll play at Alaska, the number 1 seed. So that'll be the biggest test there. That should be a really good game to see those two teams battle. D4, Ellsworth, always a tough team. You got all those wrestlers,
Yep.
and it equates to some really good football as well. They'll be at Columbus. That Columbus team, I know, that team beat Baldwin Woodville, and before that beat Altoona. So that's a really tough matchup for Ellsworth. Mondovi, keeping it moving on there in Division 6. They'll go to Marshall. That team looking good. I mean, it's going to be a tough matchup with Marshall. Marshall got past Onalaska Luther 15-12. So it gives Mondovi some hope. Mondovi 20-7 over Auburndale, which was a tough team as well. So that one should be that's a true 1-2 matchup there in Marshall. And then we move to D7 and Regis.
Yeah.
Look, it's going to be a tough matchup with Edgar. Those are 2 teams I feel like that almost always end up somehow meeting in the playoffs, or both teams are always there. You know, those are 2 of the teams that have some of the most just tradition of making the playoffs. So they'll meet. That one will be at Regis. So that'll be a good game on Friday night to get out to Carson Park and check that one out. And then just down below on the other side or down on that bottom of that bracket, Pep and Alma will host Bangor. And those are 2 teams again. Bangor's always usually around this point, and Pep and Alma's got a really good tradition too, and they've been playing really well. They put up 41 and 45 in their first 2 playoff matchups. So I expect that one to be a good one. And then, of course, on the other side of that bracket, Dan Stickman's Cashton team, it's still going. They got Blackhawk Warren. They'll host. So I think it would be great to see if Cashton can match up with one of those other teams on the other side.
That would be awesome.
And we'll never hear Chance stop talking about it ever.
I do have to give a shout out because in-laws are from there, but Colby moving on and beating St. Croix Falls over there too in the Division 5 bracket over there too. So
we could get a Colby Mondovi state championship.
Ooh,
I know that's
Colby's
five,
no
Colby's are Mondovi's 6.
So. Oh, okay. But Colby's no stranger to state football either. So
no, they got a tough one against Aquinas in lacrosse coming up there on Friday.
Yep. So, all right, that's the high school football. To kind of wrap it up with the Blue Golds, their basketball team was scrimmaging the Badgers, and you were there, Justice. But it looked like, at least for a run there, things were starting to get a little close there for between the Badgers and the Blue Golds. It seemed like.
It really was. I mean, it was a fun atmosphere. It was the exhibition game for the Guarding Against Cancer Foundation, and a lot of 4 different nonprofits in the area were able to benefit $20,000 for that. So that's, first off, that's the big thing. I mean, that was awesome that they worked together. And then on the court, yeah, they struggled early on. I think you know, just the magnitude of playing at the Kohl Center against the Badgers, one of the perennial, you know, powerhouses of basketball in the Big Ten. But after, you know, the last 5 minutes of the first half and then like the first 5 minutes of the second half, they really kind of got into a groove. And it was fun to see. You know, they were right there competing with them, and then the Badgers pulled away at the end, but I think it was like a 28-7 run or something like that at one point. So that's tough, and that's going to happen. But the Blue Golds, they looked good, and you know, credit to Matt Seiberling. You could treat this like, you know, we're going to try to be the world busters and just play your starters the whole time. No, he's looking at the long run. Is that you need to get these guys, all these guys, out on the court and see what they can do, and that's what he did. You know, he could have left his starters in the whole time, but I think both guys, you know, both coaches were looking at it. It's like, this is just, it's an exhibition, and we need to get these guys out on there and get some minutes and get your legs under them. I mean, there's practice, and then there's actual game, you know, running up and down. And I think both teams said it. It's like, that's just something that you need to do. So it was really fun and really neat. And I think, you know, the Blue Golds had the highlight of the night with Brock Voigt with the putback slam, which for him, a Sun Prairie kid, had to be, you know, has his family in the stands there. His brother plays on the team, and he gets that. So it was a fun atmosphere, a really cool event. And yeah, it was neat. It's the first time I've ever actually covered a Badger game at the Kohl Center in all my years. I've covered them in, you know, NCAA tournaments, and you know, I remember doing, like, they played Green Bay one year and I was there, but yeah, it's the first time I've ever actually covered a Badger game at the Kohl Center.
Awesome. That's really cool. You know, Blue Gold football, they got the win against your alma mater too. Had to throw that one in there. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. No, good. You know, good for Wesley. I'm happy for him. I mean, that team's, you know, endured a lot this season, but for them to get that win and get it at home and do it in convincing fashion has to feel really good. Had to really feel good for all those guys. Just to, you know, again, it's been a rough season, but they came out there and did what they had to do, and yeah. It's a win, and then you'll see, you know, maybe they can carry this momentum on for the next couple of weeks here.
And then, I mean, now we've got, you know, looking at volleyball because it's postseason time here, JC, with the Blue Gold volleyball team. Now they ended the season, the regular season, with a couple losses against Whitewater and Concordia. You know, they got the WIAC championships coming up. I think it's UW Platteville they play tomorrow, and then, you know, the NCAA regional. So the run to try to defend and repeats is now starting for Blue Gold volleyball.
Yeah, and it's going to be an interesting one because you know, they slipped down to the 4th seed. So, you know, nothing's guaranteed, especially in Division III. So I think they, you know, in the 4 or 5 matchup against Platteville coming up here, but I think obviously you've got to avoid an early exit here. If you want to get a chance. I think 4 teams can get in for the WIAC. You just don't want to give the committee, you know, a little bit of a doubt.
Right.
So I think, you know, even if you division, you know, defending national champions, doesn't guarantee that you're going to get in. We saw that with the Blue Golds hockey team back in the, you know, like 2014, 2015. They're the, you know, you win the title, have a great regular season, but if you're getting that large bid, you never know. You never know. So I think, you know, Blue Golds play Platteville, and then they go to Whitewater if they get the win. And that's a rematch. They lost to Whitewater 3-0 on Friday. So we'll see what they can do. I think that, and they're an immensely talented team. We've seen them knock off some of the top teams in the nation. I think they deserve to go to the NCAA tournament. It's just you're always on pins and needles when it comes to getting an at-large bid. So I was talking to Nick Hoven with the Blue Golds. He's like, all you got to do is just go win the tournament.
Yeah.
Take all the doubt out, go win the tournament. And, you know, it would help, you know, you knock out Whitewater there in that second round, and then anything can happen. So they're a great team, and it's going to be fun to see what plays out this week.
Definitely. All right. Hey, good stuff there, JC, breaking it all down for us. Big thanks to Justice. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to chat a little Bucks too. Bucks, I mean, they're the one team in the state that is winning right now, 5-0 to start off their season. Plus, we'll get back to some more Packers talk too. Get Justice's thoughts on the game from last night. What was, you know, we're not into, or at least I'm not into moral victories or anything like that too much. But there was some positive stuff last night. I think we could all agree with that. So positive. So we'll get to hear that in a couple of weeks here, man.
That's right.
Let's take a quick break, and then we'll be back. Talk a little Talk a little hoops. Give some Bucks some love because they're the only ones that know how to win, apparently. This is the time of year where I look back at my life and think about all the things I'm thankful for. One of them being that well, I have a good roof over my head, but there are many of us who can't say the same thing. And Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity is trying to change that. Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity here in Eau Claire, in Eau Claire, was founded in 1991 and has built over 40 homes and has repaired dozens of existing homes in the Chippewa Valley. Habitat homeowners help build their homes alongside volunteers and pay an affordable mortgage that works for them, and you can help them out too. One way is volunteering, either helping with homes, fundraising, or in different areas like the Restore. By shopping at the Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity Restore, the proceeds go to help fund home builds and repairs for families in our area. And if you have a donation, like a couch, building supplies, appliances, and more, you can donate them to the Restore and help keep items in stock. You personally can help make a difference in a family's life. You can help a family be thankful they have a good home to live in, too. For more details on the Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity, visit cvh4h.org. All right, already approaching the bottom of the hour here. I do want to give some love to the Bucks here, JC, before we hit up some more green and gold talk, some Packers talk. But Bucks remain the lone undefeated team in the NBA, and I know it's only 5 games into it, but with no Middleton, with no Pat Connaughton, with no Joe Ingles and such, Giannis is doing his thing. Drew Holiday had a terrific game the other night too. Bucks are rolling right now, man. The 82-0 is still on the table.
They can do it.
They can do
Run
it,
the table.
Run it all, baby. Best record in the league. But no,
I don't think anybody. I don't feel like anybody really expected this either. I think we expected them to be a good team, but for them to come out the way they have to start the season without Chris Middleton, and that to me that's the biggest one. It's been very impressive to see, and they eking out wins, but they're scoring a lot of points too. You started the season, you play the Sixers. You knew that was going to be a tough game. You get the 2-point victory, but since then they've scored like around 115 points per game. So that's what you like to see too. It's not just that they can grind it out, but they can score. So yeah, it's been fun to watch, and then let's see if they can do it tonight. They take on the Pistons.
Yeah, and a back-to-back at home. I know they got the night off tomorrow, but Pistons again on Wednesday though too. But and I know Giannis is logging a lot of minutes, in the early parts of the season. That's, I think, was another question a lot of us had, because we knew he was playing overseas and such for his national team. But the start that he is on there, dude, I mean, I know we kind of half jokingly said, what else can Giannis do to add to his legacy, at the beginning of the season? And I don't know. He just looks even more dominant at this point, Justice. He's just unreal right now.
Oh, he is. He is. I think he's just showing why he is the best player on earth.
Yeah.
And just showing all the skills. He's been hitting the 3-pointers, driving, rebounding. I mean, just putting up ungodly numbers, and just he's not a selfish player either. He's a guy who can distribute the ball and just do what he needs to do to help his team. So yeah, I've enjoyed watching what Giannis is doing, and he does it with a smile on his face.
Yeah.
I think Bucks fans and just Wisconsin sports fans, you got to soak this in. This is a once in generational talent that you have, and you need to just sit there and just be like, wow, how lucky are we to be able to watch this guy play in a Bucks uniform and do what he does every night on the court.
I think you hit it on the head, just soaking in and embrace what we're kind of seeing, right? Even if you're not maybe the biggest NBA fan or maybe the biggest basketball fan, what we're seeing with this team and with Giannis, like you said, is once in a lifetime, once in a generation. I mean, it's not that often. It's not like, Green Bay here for the longest run with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. We're talking the NBA and the Milwaukee Bucks, where guys are leaving different teams left and right every year, every couple of years. Embrace it, enjoy it, live in the moment, because it might not be there for very long. And that's exactly what I'm doing with Giannis. Holy moly.
And I think, looking back at the Bucks, I think this is really one of the longest tenures of a star with the Bucks. Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, his time in Milwaukee was actually pretty short. And people don't, because before he moved on to the Lakers. And then after that, maybe like a Sidney Moncrief. 90s, you have Big Dog was there for a while. Ray Allen was there for a while. But, I mean, Giannis is going to be a Buck for a good part of the future as well. And it's going to be a long chunk of his career, hopefully his whole career, but you just never know towards the end what ends up happening. But, yeah, just appreciate what you're seeing now.
I mean, it's fantastic start. And I know I kind of said, like, I just think NBA, when it comes to like MPs and all that, it kind of gets a little fluky. It's like, all right, that guy won a couple in a row. I'm not going to give him another one or anything like that. But the way Giannis has started this season, if this is something that he can do throughout the whole season, and this Bucks team continues, to do what they're doing right now, it's going to be hard to deny him another key for that trophy shelf.
Right. And, the fun thing is I think he deserves a chance for the MVP, but I'm okay almost with Giannis as great as he is, still flying under the radar
Mm-hmm.
because that means you know what you're seeing as a fan. And if the pundits want to focus more on Westbrook not getting playing time
Right.
for the Lakers, something else like that, whatever Kyrie's stupid thing he's doing over there in Brooklyn, that's what they're going to focus on. But just enjoy the joy. Enjoy the joy. Enjoy what you're seeing with Giannis. Don't worry about all that other stuff. Don't worry about if the pundits aren't giving him enough. You know he's great. The NBA players know he's great, and he is just great. So enjoy that.
Has one player, Giannis is getting a lot of attention and rightfully so, but I feel like Brook Lopez has been a nice little spark to be, especially in the defensive end for Brook Lopez in the first
yeah.
5 games.
And you looked really good in the old retro purple uniforms.
Right. Did you like that too?
Yeah. At some reason, he just fit right into it. Probably because he was playing when they were still wearing them. So. But no, yeah, he has. And I think you don't realize how much they missed him last year at the beginning of the season when he was battling all the back injuries. And I don't think he was ever 100% last year. But he looks to be back to where he was 2 years ago, 3 years ago as well. Defensively, the number of blocks that team is out there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many different guys, like especially how do you drive in there knowing that you either have Giannis or Brook Lopez having a chance to just swat at Brook because of his pure size, and Giannis and his size and athleticism can block you from like 10 feet away, it feels like sometimes. So yeah, I think that really has helped. I think getting Chris Middleton's only gonna make that team better. Obviously it's not gonna make it worse. It's Chris Middleton. And I think that'll put a little less of the shooting pressure on Drew Holiday. And Drew Holiday, I think, is a different player when Chris Middleton's there. He seems to be more in his element when he's not forced to shoot as much.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that'll help when Chris Middleton gets there because that's what Middleton likes to do. But then Drew can kind of pick his spots and be that third, just, how do you stop all 3 of these guys? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think as a team, they're playing great. And we're seeing that, maybe a little, cohesiveness with an end actually does pay dividends. And that's what the Bucks are doing right now.
Yeah. You're looking at Brook Lopez. He's averaging 3.6 blocks per game. He's had multiple blocks in every single game so far. Obviously, the Brooklyn one was highlighted with 5. Houston, he had 5. And, but every single game he's had at least 2 or more blocks so far in each game. And, Brook Lopez, I feel like sometimes, and I'm guilty of this, though, too, is maybe take him for granted a little bit. I remember last year when he was out, it's like, oh, do you trade him? Do you put him on the bench, keep Portis in this offseason? It's like, okay, do you trade him and maybe give go to a Portis, a little bit smaller of a lineup? But he just is fairly consistent. I know he's kind of like an up and down player for a lot of fans. Like some people get frustrated with him, and especially like with the defensive philosophy the last couple of years, like he wouldn't come out. But the Bucks always like focused on interior defense there. But when you look at it, is he a guy that we just take for granted sometimes, you think?
I think so, because he's just, it's easy to just block him off and just say, oh, he's just a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
Just a big man, and you can just throw another big man out there. But it's really not that way because of the amount that he can also give you on the outside. I mean, a lot of people don't like seeing those, like a guy like Brook Lopez shoot 3-pointers, but he can do it, and he can make them, and he's a threat that way. So, it opens up your offense a little bit as well. And then this defensively, yeah, I mean, he's all world when it comes to interior blocking and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think it's just, somebody you really do take for granted, but we're kind of seeing it this beginning of the season of what he can really do. And for a guy who's now, is going to be 35 this season, still putting up 13 points a game when he's out there. And that's what he's done the last 6 seasons. That shows you that he, as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be a major part of this Bucks team the whole season.
Yeah, this year averaging 13.6 points per game. Shooting 35% from the 3, 43% overall from the field, but those 3.6 block. He's never been a big rebounding guy too. Even for a big man, he's never been a big double-digit rebounder. And well, you got Giannis kind of taking care of that side with this Bucks team. He's all over the place. So
yeah, I think that's Lopez as big as he is, he's not the fleetest of foot. Let's put it that way. So, fighting for those rebounds sometimes inside's not the easiest when you have a guy like Giannis who's that tall and can move that crazy fast to wherever he needs to be. So, but yeah, I'll take the blocks, I'll take the offense, and I'll take him just being able to spread that defense out by being able to shoot that outside shot and shooting at a clip around his career percentage. So it's not like he's having a decline. He's shooting around 35%, and that's what he's been doing since he started shooting three-pointers about 7, 8 years ago.
Even I was looking at like some of the minutes, averaged for looking at for Giannis, and really Giannis is only averaging 34.6 minutes per game. He's actually averaging the same amount as Drew Holiday, which is, if you want to compare it in the league, 35th most minutes average. Donovan Mitchell's got the most with Kyrie Irving, surprisingly. Both are at 39 minutes per game. So, I mean, what, 48 minutes in a total basketball game? 5-0. Not putting a whole lot of pressure on those two guys while they wait for Middleton to kind of join that threesome.
And that offensive efficiency, you hit it there. 34.4 points a game he's averaging in 34.6 minutes. So a point a minute when he's out there on the court. That just shows you how dominant he is and how much you have to account for Giannis every time he's out there.
Yep.
So he's never had this is granted, we're 5 games in, so there's a lot of season to go. But I mean, he could average as many points as he does minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
That would be pretty amazing. And that means when you do need to play him the whole 48, you're getting over 40 points more than likely.
Mm-hmm.
Just if he's playing a good game. And we've seen it already this year. When he's out there for pretty much the whole time, he's going to put up 40 points and double-digit rebounds and get a couple of blocks. So, yeah, where do you not account for Giannis? Because he's going to be there every facet of the game.
Yep, no doubt. Speaking of efficiency, Giannis is leading the league. No surprise. 40 right now. All right. Tell you what, we got to take a quick break. We'll restart the Zoom here, JC, and then we'll finish up this hour with Justice Cleveland. Talking a little green and golds. Do you want the Packers to make a move by the trade deadline tomorrow? Last night, I should say, there was some good things in the game. Obviously, some negatives. The only thing that matters, though, is win or loss at this point. So 3-5 right now. We'll talk a little bit more green and gold and get Justice's thoughts on what he saw from the game last night after we take a quick break. We'll be back after these few words. The other day I was asked for my input about what type of floor someone should put in their rec room. Should they go with some vinyl planks like the Rigid Max floors from Carpet City Flooring Center, or one of the many awesome looking styles of carpets at Carpet City Flooring Center? Man, you can go so many different ways with this. But as I told this individual, it's what type of floor really speaks to you in your room, and that they should chat with the team at Carpet City Flooring Center. The knowledgeable and incredibly helpful staff at Carpet City Flooring Center will not only help you select the floor that would look best in your home and budget, but the floor that would function the best in your particular area. That's what they did for me. They helped me select the best color that would not only look good, but last in a heavy traffic area, and the type of floor that would function the best in that area. So we all know home improvement projects can be a little nerve-wracking, but the thing is, with Carpet City Flooring Center, they make it so easy and simple that it takes the nerves out of it for you. And don't take my word for it. You can just look at all the positive reviews left by other happy customers when you simply Google Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. So if you have any questions or need help when it comes to updating your floor, look no further than the local experts at Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. Stop on in today at 3109 East Hamilton Avenue in Eau Claire. Got about 15 minutes left here with JC in the EC, Justice Cleveland, Sports Director Extraordinaire, WEAE 13 News. So the Packers, we've got to talk about, is there anything positive we can take away? Try not to be all morale victory or anything like that. But, I mean, was there any, like, positive stuff we could take away from the game last night, Justice? And, you know, I talked about the running game, and well, here's some numbers that might blow some people's minds. The Bills had the number one run defense, allowing only 76.2 yards per game. Packers ran for 208. Jones had 20 carries for 143 yards. That's one thing, right? I mean, Packers stuck with the run game, and well, Jones did a lot. It just felt like if the defense would have had a couple stops, maybe this game is a little bit different.
Yeah, I think to me also that first drive for the Packers getting stopped on fourth down kind of took a lot of the momentum away, because you get that initial stop of the Bills, they punt it away, and then you have a chance on offense and just can't convert that fourth down. Just took a lot of momentum out. And I also think just that Christian Watson injury right away kind of took some wins out of their sails too.
Yeah,
you had a guy who you're glad to get him back, and then he goes out right away, and you could see the look on it, like both LaFleur and Rodgers' face, like, oh man, it's like you just get this guy back, and then something like that happens on his first catch back. So it's been a nightmare, rookie season for Christian Watson, and you see the glimpses there, and you can't, like, the injuries you can't account for. It's not his fault. He's getting, he got hit like that.
Right.
So it's tough, but you see the glimpses and what they think he can do, and it's unfortunate they can't stay on the field. Running game, yeah, I think if they score that first drive, then, the Bills come back and score again, you can still run the ball, and they did run the ball. Credit to the Packers. I mean, 31 attempts for 208 yards. They did what they had to do. The unfortunate thing is you were playing from behind, and you can only do so much with the running game if you're not breaking big ones for touchdowns. So they just kind of, you run out of time that way. So, yeah, the defense had no answer for Josh Allen. They did in the second half more, and maybe some of those are more Josh Allen's own mistakes.
Right.
But in the first half, you just watched it, and you're like, what can they do? They can't do anything. You can't have Darnell Savage running in and
Darnell.
One of the worst tackling attempts I think I've ever seen.
There's a couple, but yeah, I know which one you're talking about on the sideline there. Holy
right.
moly.
It's like you didn't even try to put a body on him. He just tried to, like, forearm him and didn't even.
Yeah.
They got to try to tackle him, at least get in his way.
Right.
I know it's going to hurt because he's a big guy, but yeah, the defense lacked that spark, especially in the first half. I think in the second half might have been the best adjustments we've seen by the Packers defense in a while. But it was almost flip-flop from the other games, whereas the second half the teams figured it was the first half. They just did not have an answer for Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs.
So let me ask you this, speaking with the defense, though, too. Last couple games before last night, we saw Jair Alexander go up against Garrett Wilson and shadow him with the Jets. Terry McLaurin kind of had his way last week. Tip of the cap to Terry McLaurin. Last night, Jair was matched up with Gabe Davis on 14 of 23 routes. Jair ended up with an interception and did not allow a reception on 4 targets to Davis. You look at Stephon Diggs' numbers, over 100 yards receiving. would you have had Jair on him? I mean, unless they're like, hey, those two are just trash talking too much. We're not going to get in trouble that way. But I mean, should you think that way? I mean, it seems like it
Yeah.
goes back and forth a little bit here with his coverage decisions.
The only thing I can think of is on defense, they're scheming to the point where they're going to think they're going to use Diggs more as just that decoy because he is the number one guy, kind of like Devontae opened up for other guys, and they were thinking that Gabe Davis might be the guy and it would give Jair more chance to make a play. This is just me thinking in my head, what would be the possibility of not having your best guy on the other team's best guy? But it's just weird. That's how we see it in the whole NFL, though. It's not just the Packers. It happens a lot from different games and different weeks. So I don't know the exact reasoning for it. I would have liked to see it, but I mean, the other defensive backs have to step up. They are not playing. I don't know what happened from last season to this season, but you're not seeing the same guys, it feels like, that you saw last year. And maybe was it just an aberration with what they did last year? I don't know. Rasul Douglas hasn't been anywhere what he was last year. And Darnell Savage we've already talked about some of his already just mistakes that he's making out there and just coverage wise. Stokes has had plenty of mistakes as well. You lose a guy like Devondre Campbell early on in the game, so you lose your linebackers, so that's a lot more pressure on those defensive backs as well. It's just been ugly on the defensive side with the injuries and what's happening. As soon as they you try to get someone back, somebody else is gone. So, and then just the run stopping. Granted, the Bills didn't run it a ton. They ran 27 times still. But it seems like they're just cruising and coasting to that second level. Like there's initial push. Yep. They talked about it on the podcast where you're with a couple yards. And unfortunately, with the Packers, like you're giving them a couple yards and then they're getting another. They're getting 6 yards, it feels like. And that's what they average, 5.7 yards. It makes it a lot easier to run your offense, especially if you have Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs when you're going on 2nd and 5.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and then, I look at Rashawn Gary too, like, talented pass rusher. But I mean, there was how many times last night where it was just over pursuit where he's going straight up the field. And then you're allowing Josh Allen, a guy who's not afraid to run the football, Justice, to kind of step up and have some green pastures to either run that or continue to look downfield for a big pass play. That's kind of been a thing that's popped up with Rashawn Gary. It seems like the last couple of weeks, their best pass rusher, but setting the edge and maybe not over pursuing as much as that's something that they've got to figure out, in my opinion.
Right. You're getting there, but you're not getting to them. And we've seen that time and time again. And then they just roll out and either they, like you said, they run or they pick out a receiver.
Yep.
So it's been just a lot of questionable things with that defense. And unfortunately, I think, Kenny Clark needs some help in the interior.
Yeah.
Like they're not getting any push against the run game. That to me is just like you watch every run and you're like, oh, there's 4 yards at least. When's the last time they stuffed a run for like a loss? And even the tackling has
seems
been
like
bad.
It's been Preston Smith that's been mostly doing that, not the defensive line.
And I give a lot of credit to Preston Smith. I feel like he's the one who's playing out. I mean, he's got a fire every time he's out there. He's getting close. Like I say, it's like they're close to getting home on the quarterback. They just don't get there, and then usually something big happens. We saw Josh Allen with a couple of those big bomb passes were on plays where he's about to get sacked. So credit to the quarterbacks, obviously, for getting those balls out. But if you need to figure out a way to contain, because when you're not in contain, there's been so many big plays against that defense.
The rookie wideouts. So Romeo Doubs made a couple of great catches last night. We know the rookie from Nebraska, Torrey, with the touchdown catch as well. Did you get the feeling like, at least on a couple or maybe a few times, that Aaron was starting to like, you know what? I got nothing to lose. I got to start trusting him, maybe kind of opening it up a little bit. I mean, because those throws to Romeo Doubs, those are trust throws. I know the Samari one, I thought Collinsworth did a great job of kind of breaking it down, how he adjusted his route and changed his route based off of, a little bit of a scramble drill, which I got to imagine Aaron loved that. But did you kind of sense a little bit more like, okay, he's starting to open up a little bit more with the rookie wideouts?
I think so. I think they're, it's weird that fourth quarter, that felt more like almost like the old Packers.
Right? Yeah.
It really did. I think even watching Aaron play quarterback, he was smart enough to know that he couldn't stay in the pocket.
Yeah.
and he
We
was
saw him
doing
run for a first down, for crying out loud, you know?
right. And you saw a little more pep in his step when it came to doing that, to stepping up in out of the pocket, rolling out of the pocket, and making those throws. So I mean, yeah, you obviously you lose by 10 points to Buffalo, but I really it felt like there was something that started to maybe click a little bit more. And I think, they Collinsworth and those guys talked about it. The 2-minute drill, yeah, it's a struggle when you have all these guys who you've thrown in there
Yeah.
that haven't really played together, but it seemed like you saw from almost everybody out there, everybody contributed something.
Mhm.
I mean, Amari Rogers had to catch a big one for 22 yards. You had Christian Watson obviously get injured, but it was a first down catch that he had. You had guys like Torre and Romeo Dubs get touchdowns.
Mhm.
So maybe it's starting. I hate to say it, but it's in this day and age, it takes a while for these guys to get the maturation process for the NFL. And you're hoping now it's starting to happen. Unfortunately, is it too late? 3-5. There's a lot of teams in that 3-5
and 4-4 type of mold though
4-4.
too. That's but that's maybe the glimmer of hope that there are teams like that are still, San Francisco. If you're doing the halfway through the season playoff watch, San Francisco is the 7th seed at 4-4, but they play in an NFC West that might just kind of be banging up on each other here a little bit. Who knows if the Giants can continue this sort of thing? But I mean, there's a little bit of glimmer of hope, right? A little bit of
I
a
think
glimmer of
so.
hope.
You'll get Alan Lazard back at some point, but I think it's good for these rookies to be put in this position.
Mhm.
And I think they actually responded. And I think, Romeo Doubs, I almost felt like he got in the doghouse there with a couple of those drops he had.
Mhm.
And it looked like Aaron, kind of says, okay, I can go back to you. Now I trust you. And I mean, Torre to go out, I had a kind of a drop the play before where it like slipped through his hands. But then for him to do that I don't know if it was the next play, but a couple plays later to get the touchdown. And just both those touchdowns were tough catches.
Yeah.
Those were very small space to make them. Those are things that Davante Adams would do.
Mhm.
And to see those two guys do that, and then, with the hope of other guys coming back, yeah, there's some hope. And you have the running game. The running game was great.
Mhm.
I mean, unfortunately, that's just kind of gets thrown in the shadows is the fact that they got 208 yards against the Bills. And Aaron Jones is just all worldly this year. And again, I'm a big fan of Aaron Jones and keeping him on the field as much as you can, because what he's doing is just flying under the radar because team's been losing. But man, he's the runs, the burst that he has this year has been pretty amazing. And he's a guy that just gets stronger and stronger. And then AJ Dillon, I think it was a bounce back game for AJ Dillon.
Mhm.
We saw some tough runs for him, and getting 5.4 a pop. That's what you want to see from those two. 100 yards from your top guy, 50 yards from your second guy. You'll take that. You need to be playing with the lead. That's
Exactly.
the biggest thing.
Yeah, you just kind of wonder, like, if they were just, maybe a couple of defensive stops there, would it have been a little bit different? So, with the rookie wide receivers and such, trade deadlines tomorrow, Justice. Everybody's saying Green Bay's been making calls. If you believe all the insiders out there, would you make a deal? Do you think they need to make a deal at this point?
As much as I like those rookie receivers, I still think bringing somebody in that's a veteran presence would be great, because you don't know what you're going to get from Sammy Watkins if he can stay on the field. So I think
Dude had 1 target, 1 catch for 3 yards, and he had the second most reps behind Romeo Doubs last night, for crying out loud.
So if there's somebody out there that you can get that can contribute and contribute quickly, I think you still go for it. You have to. I think with the injuries that are possible to happen, you don't know if that Lazard injury is going to linger. You don't know when you're going to get Randall Cobb back. Yeah. I think you don't know what Christian Watson, probably going to be in concussion protocol at least this week, if not longer. So if there's somebody out there that's a veteran that's proven and can fit in, you'd got to go for it.
So would you be willing to trade I'm just going to throw something out there, 2nd round pick for like a Brandon Cooks?
Boy, Brandon Cooks is probably the king of 2nd round picks. But he
still puts up numbers.
Right. It's crazy the amount of teams that he's for, but a lot of those teams end up being bad.
Yeah.
But you know what? Yeah, because those 2nd round picks haven't done a whole lot for you lately. Yeah. So I'm okay with that. If you think there's still hope that this team can turn it around and play well, and I wouldn't, not just hesitate on the offensive side, but if there's somebody on the defensive side that can make a difference maker too, look that way.
I was going to say, I mean, depending on Devondre Campbell's injury, maybe a linebacker or heck, a lineman up front to help stop the run for crying out loud.
Right. And those are the two, Devondre as an all-pro last year, I think obviously he's been battling injuries the whole kind of season, and him not being able to play at that same level he did last year has definitely been a big factor for this defensive struggles too, because that's the guy who's that second level right there. And if he's not there to stop, that's why they're getting those 9, 10, 11, 12-yard run plays and not able to contain the quarterback. So, yeah, that's tough. If he's out for an extended period, that's going to be even tougher for that Packers defense.
So, right before I let you go here, we got less than a minute at Detroit, but after Detroit, Dallas, Tennessee, at Philadelphia. Is this a must win this weekend to have any? I mean, we just talked about that. They have a little bit of hope, but does that go out the window if they lose against Detroit this weekend?
I think so. At 3-6, I hate to say the running the table, but you're going to be close to the point where you're going to have to run the table, maybe afford one loss to get a 10-7. Yeah, it's a must win because it's a team that you can beat. But I mean, the danger is this is a Lions team that's backed into a wall right now.
Yeah,
and they've been in almost every game. They've seen a lot of fourth quarter collapses. So if you're the Packers and you need to get out there and just make that statement. Don't give the Lions a chance. And the Ford Field has not been a place that the Packers have played well.
No,
it is a place that they have seen a lot of struggles. So yeah, I mean it's going to be a tough one. It'll be interesting to see what they can do because again, this Lion team is not. It's a 1-6 team, but it's a team that's played better at times than 1-6. There's been times they played bad.
Right.
Patriots and Cowboys, they stunk. But last week this week against the Dolphins, they had a chance to win that game and probably should have.
All right, JC, appreciate the time, buddy. You have a good weekend. Safe travels for all the state stuff.
No problem. I want to give a quick shout out to my crew over at Sports Scene 13. Philip and JD did a great job. Jeff and Dwayne as well thrown in there. So I just want to thank them for a good week.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right, JC, have a good week, buddy.
Thank you. You too.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. Third hour coming up after these few words. Happy Halloween, everybody. The final hour of the day edition of the Dan Kasper Show coming at you right now. Big thanks for tuning in. Wherever you are tuning in, however you may be tuning in. Got radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also online, sportstalk1051.com. You get the Sports Talk app and the video streams, which is on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Coming up here in just a minute, we'll get to some studs and duds. We got another one segment called Fired Up coming up about 8:20, 8:25. I forgot to do sports nuggets of the day last hour, though, so I want to hit those up right now. We got a couple of them because 1968, the Milwaukee Bucks won their first game ever. They beat Detroit 138 to 118. 1995, the NHL's New Jersey Devils announced that they would stay in New Jersey. We got, I think that's about it. Yeah. Oh, 1950, Earl Lloyd, Washington Capitals, became the first African-American to play in an NBA game. So those are just a couple of sports nuggets. Didn't get to it last hour. Wanted to make sure I caught up on those. A couple texts to get to. We got, good morning, Dan. I don't know what day we do studs and duds. Well, it is today. Just want to say that my studs are definitely the Bucks. And I'm pretty proud of how hard the Packers played last night. They showed up, played hard, and did not embarrass themselves or Packers fans. My all-time dud of the known world is going to be the Packers organization if they don't make some trades by the trade deadline. Sick of the inactivity. Another one, I would not trade for anyone. A little opposite approach here. Defense had a great second half with 2 turnovers, 3 points. They played with a chip on the shoulder. The problem is that the offensive line can't pass block. Biggest problem with receivers is that they don't get separation. Those can be fixed with adjustments in the scheme. LaFleur's challenge is, can he fix those 2 areas? So trade deadline is tomorrow. We'll kind of maybe hit that up as a question of the day tomorrow if they don't make any moves. But today, right? My studs and duds. Let's get to it right now. My studs. You could go a couple different routes. Aaron Jones, but I had Aaron Jones as my motivational Monday guy along with Romeo Dobbs. So I'm going to go a little bit of a different route here. I'm going with the Greek freak Giannis as my stud, along with Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday had a fantastic game the other night too. But those 2 are my studs right now. And I guess you could kind of say the whole Milwaukee Bucks team because they're 5-0 off to a fantastic start to begin the season. Now, it is only 5 games into an 82-game season, but with no Chris Middleton, no Pat Connaughton coming off the bench, their 6th man. No Joe Ingles coming in, their new free agent acquisition. Bucks off to a 5-0 start. Hey, given everything else that's kind of been going on in terms of the state for some sports teams, we'll take it right now. So Giannis and Drew Holiday, but I guess you could say the entire Bucks team is my studs. My duds, Darnell Savage is dud number 1. Man, if you can't tackle, this is the Captain Obvious statement here. You can't tackle, you can't play football, especially, at the safety position. For crying out loud, the guy missed. The one that everybody's talking about is probably going to be like a GIF or a GIF or a meme or something like that, is the complete whiff of a tackle he missed on Josh Allen on the sideline. But there was a couple other ones too. He just missed. Darnell Savage is not having a good year right now. And his play was showcased in a negative light big time last night. Now, the thing is, what do you do at this point? Do you play Ford? Do you play Ford back more in the safety role? Heck, is this, we talk about the trade deadline. Is that something else that they should be looking at by the trade deadline, is to kind of maybe look for another I don't know. But there's not a whole lot to write home about Darnell Savage right now. We've known that he's got his issues with coverage. We've seen that, especially with tight ends. They talk about he could be that nickel corner, but he has struggled in coverage with tight ends and such. Now he's struggling with tackling, for crying out loud. Oh, It's not good. So dud to me is Darnell Savage. So that's my studs and duds. Rest of you, if you want to send over your studs and duds, you can do so with a tweet or Facebook or Instagram, YouTube, however you want to go about it. So, but yeah. Maybe I'll put up a poll right now on Twitter. That way we'll have it for tomorrow. Do you want to see Green Bay make a move before the deadline? We got some snap counts. I was kind of curious to see some of the guys where they were, how much they were playing. So one of them I wanted to see was DeGuara, because it seemed like he got a lot more reps in, not necessarily in the passing game, but he was more involved. It seemed like in that H-back role, fullback type role, helping with the blocking back there, and he did play 45% of the snaps last night. 30 total, 45% of the snaps there. Some other maybe notable ones, if you will. Watkins with just one target and one catch for 3 yards. Sammy Watkins had the second most wide receiver reps, only behind Romeo Doubs. Romeo Doubs had 54 of the 66. So 66 total snaps on offense. Romeo had 54, 82%. Sammy Watkins, 52 snaps, 79%. Okay, 79% of the reps, and you only got one target. That ain't good enough. That ain't going to cut it. Tunyon, 74% of the snaps. Aaron Jones played 67% of the snaps last night, too. Defensively, the only guys to play 100% of the snaps were your two safeties, Adrian Amos and Darnell Savage. Eric Stokes played 98%. Jair Alexander, 98%. Rasul Douglas played 80%. Kenny Clark, 78% there. I think we could take some positives. I'll kind of deep dive into this a little bit more, but I know it kind of seems like that's a prevailing theory amongst Packers fans. Maybe we're not necessarily looking for moral victories here, because moral victories don't count in the stat sheets or don't count in the win and loss column. But I think a lot of us had the expectation going into last night's game, yeah, it's going to be a big uphill battle. It's going to be tough. Probably not going to get it done. But there was stuff that we took away from that game last night. It's like that maybe we finally saw that we didn't see in the last couple games, with the Giants and the Jets and Washington. Giants, they got out to an early lead, collapsed. Washington, they got out to an early lead, collapsed. It was obviously not the case last night, but we haven't seen a fully complete game yet, but it felt like last night. And a lot of you kind of sending your thoughts in are kind of saying the same thing. But there were some stuff that there were some positives to come out of this game. The big one being the running game, sticking with the running game. The only downfall is that you were playing from behind by a couple of possessions. And if you stick with that run game, you're not going to be able to play catch up very quickly. And there were some people last night after the game and listening to Aaron's presser say it, and Aaron made a comment that we have to be able to push the ball down the field through the air to win these games. And people were kind of said, oh, no, Aaron's going to start to abandon the run and start to throw the ball all over the place. I don't think that's what he was saying at all. I think he was saying that we just have to have that ability to be able to throw the ball down the field, to be able to push the ball down the field. Because if you get in situations where you're down 7 or down 10, you've got to be able to push it down the field. Have that threat. Have that ability to do that. And you saw Green Bay kind of doing a little bit. Maybe Aaron was trusting his receiver a little bit more, moving around, using his legs a little bit to buy some time or even picking up some yardage. But you could kind of see it too in that 2-minute warning, like Collinsworth was saying in the game. You got a bunch of young guys out there that are not used to being in a 2-minute situation. And remember, Robert Tunyon talked about, before the season started, he talked about the difficulty, but how much he loves playing with Aaron Rodgers because it's so mental. And he talks about like the 2-minute stuff. It's a lot going on. Really gets you thinking. You got to be on your toes. You got these rookies out there doing that. And I think Collinsworth used the phrase kind of spoon feeding them last night. And it did take a lot of time off the clock. But Aaron is exactly right when he makes the point that, hey, they've got to be able to push the ball down the field. He is 100% correct. That doesn't mean that he's going out there saying, hey, we got to stop running the ball so much and we got to start throwing the ball more. You just have to have that ability to be able to push the ball down the field if you get in situations where you're down and time's running out. That's my thoughts, but I do think this game against Detroit coming up here, I'm still not confident in this thing. I'm a little bit nervous, but this is definitely a must-win game. 100%. I mean, Aaron mentioned it last night too. They need a win and the momentum changes. They're at that point 4 games in a row now where they've 4-game losing streak. You get a win and maybe you start to gain a little bit of confidence. You know, maybe some things are kind of slowly starting to just a skosh on offense, slowly starting to click. You get a win, all right, you get a little confidence, and then you welcome Mike McCarthy back to Lambeau Field against the Dallas Cowboys. You're 4-5. If you somehow, or I shouldn't say somehow, a little dramatic, but you get the win to go back to 500. Short week against Tennessee. Derrick Henry comes to town. Your run game or your run defense better be up to snuff against Derrick Henry. Maybe, just maybe, if you can rattle off 3 in a row here, you could get into that Sunday night game at Philly, 1 game above 500. Just maybe. It's a tough task. It's a tall task, but maybe. Just maybe. Because we're about the halfway mark-ish. Odd number of games. Close enough. 8 games in here. But this is going to be a tough third quarter coming up here for Green Bay. Detroit, Dallas, Tennessee, Philadelphia. Let's throw in Chicago game in there too, because then you got the bye week. So your third quarter, 2 home, 3 away. Detroit, Dallas, Tennessee, Philadelphia, Chicago. You've got 3 playoff teams in the next 5 as of right now, unless something drastically changes. Dallas, wildcard team right now. Tennessee, AFC South is a mess. But Tennessee's rolling right now after starting 0-2. They've won, 5 in a row? And, of course, Philadelphia, the lone undefeated team in the entire National Football League right now. This is going to be a tough third quarter, but no more excuses. You got to get this thing done, baby. And it starts in Detroit against a desperate Detroit team, against a team that, they've had chances. We've been saying that the last couple of years with this Lions team. They've had chances. They just can't close these games out. And now you're starting to get calls for Dan Campbell. Is he going to be able to survive this year? Is he going to be gone in the offseason? So Detroit's, their back's against the wall too. They would love nothing more to go out there high energy and knocking off Green Bay. Green Bay's got to get ready for a punch, a big-time punch from Detroit. Got to jump out to that lead and just hold on, control that time possession. Don't focus on that Dallas game. You have no reason to be focusing on a game past your current one. None. You don't have that luxury. Got to take care of business. All right, we got to take a quick break, and then coming up, what's got me fired up on this Monday morning? Well, I got a couple of things that are fired up, but one thing in particular. What has you fired up? Kind of a new segment here. Let me know. Text, tweet, Facebook, whatever. We'll be back. All right, hunters. I know some of you have some luck out there, so don't forget. Send those picks over for the Field and Gun trophy board. You know, the Blaze Orange season is going to be starting up here in a few weeks already. So if you need any last minute stuff, head on over to our good friends at Field and Gun. Okay, Field and Gun. You can visit their website, fieldandgun.com. You're looking for a rifle, or heck, they've got a wide selection of used firearms over there too, high quality used firearms over there too. But Field and Gun, they'll help you out with your upcoming hunting season here. And the trail cam picks are starting to kind of come through here. Maybe seeing some more movement with the bucks and such. With the rut, I know. Checking things out this weekend. I was out in the woods, and man, oh man, the scrapes are popping up left and right now. So it's starting. You probably see it's already coming up here in a couple weeks. All right, hey, we only got like 35 minutes left. Halloween, happy Halloween, everybody. Be safe tonight, kiddos. Get a bunch of candy, all that sort of stuff. The top power rankings for Halloween candy. What do you got for me? Okay. See, I'm the oddball in this. I'm allergic to peanuts and peanut butter, so I can't do the Reese's stuff. So my power rankings are they probably suck compared to everybody else because I'm not able to have the same stuff as everybody else. I've never had a Reese's. I've never had a Snickers. I can't do it. Otherwise, throat clogs up and keel over, sort of thing. So I'm relying on you guys. Top power rankings. Your power rankings for the best Halloween video. Okay, have a little fun on this one. Okay, what's got me fired up? I'm gonna try to kind of do this every Monday, sort of thing. But what's got me fired up on this Monday morning? I already kind of touched on it, but this Milwaukee Bucks team's got me fired up right now. Giannis Antetokounmpo's got me fired up right now. At the beginning of the season, we were kind of talking about like, hey, what else can Giannis do? Is there something else he can do? Is there something else he can, I guess, add to his legacy? And it was kind of like, well, maybe he just continue to dominate, continue to go out there and do his thing. And Giannis is doing just that. Only 5 games in, but when we look at how, or with no Chris Middleton and no Pat Connaughton, a key player off the bench, Joe Ingles, and that coming in, and Giannis has just been so dominant yet efficient. That's why he's number 1 in the NBA in efficiency right now. But when you look at what he has done in these 5 games so far, it is MVP, it is best player in the league numbers. No doubt. There's no question. First game against Philly, 21 points, 8 assists, 13 boards. Since then, he has scored 30 or more points in the last 4 games. 44 against Houston, 12 rebounds. 43 against Brooklyn, 14 rebounds, 5 assists. New York, 30 points, 14 rebounds, 9 assists. 1 assist away from a triple-double. Then against Atlanta, 34 points, 17 rebounds, and 4 assists. Giannis is on a different level. There should be no question. No offense to Luka. I know Luka's got he's scoring. Actually, Giannis has a better 3-point percentage than Luka, if anybody was kind of wondering or curious or even cares about that. But to me, there's nobody better in the NBA right now than the man who plays for our Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis. He is a freak. And, we kind of said, who's like the scariest for Halloween, the scariest players or teams out there? Giannis is a scary dude. And I'm glad he's on my team. Because if he wasn't, and we had to go up against him a lot, that dude's scary. That's why he's a freak. He's the Greek freak. Giannis is easily, I think, the scariest player in the NBA right now. He's so good and he's so dominant. And I'm embracing all this. Like, I'm trying to enjoy every single minute of this because we don't know how long this is going to last. It could be, hopefully, 7, 8, 9, 10 more years of high-level play from the Greek Freak, and hopefully it's all in Milwaukee. It could be just 2 more years. We don't know. We don't know what the plan is. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm embracing every minute. I'm enjoying every minute. And I don't know in my lifetime if we'll ever have another player like Giannis suiting up for the Milwaukee Bucks during my lifetime. And then I know we've talked about it how many times, but it's just like the personality of the man, the mindset of this guy. It's amazing. So what's got me fired up is the Greek Freak right now. I think, going back to our little fun Halloween question, who's the scariest player, scariest team? If I did it in my lifetime, I mean, if we wanted to go back old school, you could think of like the old school linebackers or corners in the NFL, right? Like Night Train Lane or Deacon Jones, when they would really they were allowed to be pretty damn physical in football, right? I mean, you can probably replay it in your mind. Otherwise, go on YouTube and look at the old NFL films stuff, and it was just like boom. I mean, hits to the head. It was some nasty stuff. But I think in my lifetime, like the scariest dudes, and I'm talking the scariest players. I'm talking like scary in terms of their play. I mean, you can go with the obviouses of like Jordan's, Tiger. I think Shaq would have been pretty dang scary. I mean, come on, it was like 7'1" dude, 300 plus pounds, but agile, like the Diesel, like Shaq Diesel. Ronnie Lott. I mean, come on, you got a guy who cuts his finger off to go out and play, and that ain't happening anymore in 2022. I don't know if they'll even let that happen anymore in this day and age. But you got a guy that'll cut his finger off and go out there and play. That's a scary dude in Ronnie Lott. I think a lot of people will probably go like Dennis Rodman, and you got Bill Romanowski, the linebacker. You think a baseball scary dude, Randy Johnson. I mean, come on, the guy's going to throw above your head. It's a scary man. It's a scary man up there. I always thought Jason Kendall, the catcher, was just like, he was so old school and such, but it's like that guy just looks like, I don't know, like I don't want to mess with him. I wouldn't want to mess with that guy. So, candy power rankings from Surveyor. Reese's pumpkin shapes. Caramel apple suckers. Oh, I remember having those all the time as a kid. Sour Patch Kids. Swedish fish. And then Snickers. So, yeah, obviously a couple of those I can't have. And, I've been out on a lot of stuff, and I missed out a lot of stuff as a kid too. So, okay, I did. Okay, Evil Surveyor. The bars in Bloomer handed out drink tickets to his kids. One was even good for a double. With that, I'd say the drink tickets are my new favorite Halloween candy. All right. There's one way to go about it. I was always a Kit Kat and Carmelo bar type of kid. It's always that way. Okay, so back to the green and gold as we wrap things up here in just a little bit. The trade deadline is tomorrow. Should Green Bay make a move? Should they make a move? And if you think so, should it be wide receiver, or do you think they should highlight or focus on a different position of need? We've focused so much on wide receivers. Obviously, there's been a lot of inconsistency and lack of talent at times there. But if we take wide receiver off the table, say that's just take that off. What do you think should be the next big need that Green Bay? Let's pretend we're in Madden here for a second, okay? Or fantasy football, whatever. And we can do some trades. What do you think would be the next position of need, of greater need for Green Bay if we take wide receiver off the table? I'm looking at it. The way Darnell Savage in the secondary has played, and we don't have to come up with names because I'll be honest with you, a lot of these guys wouldn't even be available or anything like that. But I'm looking at like the back end of the secondary, and for a position of strength that we thought was going to be, the best part of this defense heading into this year, whether it's been schemes, play calling, or just, subpar play, it could be a little bit of everything. But, safety, I think, would have to be at least on that short list. A safety who's willing to tackle. Maybe a defensive lineman to kind of help up there and clog some of the, like a consistent defensive lineman too. We've got bodies, and we've had, guys kind of have great games here and there, good games here and there. But have you heard a lot about Reed, Lowry, Slayton? Maybe one game here and there, right? We haven't had the consistency on defensive line to help out Kenny Clark. So, throw that one on there. Offensively, I mean, you can look at this offensive line and be like, okay, up the middle, up front, do they need to upgrade those guards? Do they need an upgrade over a guy like John Runyon Jr.? Do they, obviously they're opening up holes in the running game. I mean, Aaron Jones, look at last night, 20 carries, over 140 yards. But the pass blocking, they're coming right up the middle on him, on Aaron Rodgers. Do they look at an offensive lineman to try to bring in and improve their pass blocking at a guard position, though? Or maybe you think they need to get a different right tackle over there besides Yash. I'll be curious to see what some of the Pro Football Focus rating grades will be coming out later today on Green Bay. So we're focusing on, and I totally get it, and I would agree with it. We're so focused on wide receiver, but does one wide receiver, perhaps just like one wide receiver, does that fix everything? Does it fix everything with this team? No, it doesn't fix everything, but does it make a huge difference? I think it could make a difference on the offense. I think, it'll provide, at least depending on who they get. Let's assume that they get a starting wide receiver, okay? And it's not like, oh yeah, that guy's fourth on the depth chart sort of thing. Let's assume it's a starting caliber wide receiver. I think it makes a difference in terms of maybe giving a little bit more respectability with the passing offense. Like, okay, you're lining up. I'm just going to throw a name out there to make this easier. Okay, Brandon Cooks is lined up now. All right. Now the opposing defense has to, give it a little bit more respect in the passing game because you got a guy like Brandon Cooks out there. Does it instantly turn them into a Super Bowl caliber team sort of thing? Nah, I don't know about that. They got a couple other inefficiencies on this team that they've got to figure out. And is that coaching? Is it player personnel? Is it players? Probably a little bit of both here. We're halfway through this season. Yeah, I'm going to save this for closing arguments coming up here. Kind of like looking at halfway through the season here for Green Bay and such. So I'll save that for some closing arguments, or closing statements, I should say they're called. All right. Surveyor Wayne Shelford. Is that how you pronounce his last name? Is the scariest man ever. Man had his, I think you told me about this guy. Man had his scrotum ripped mid-game, got it stapled back together, and entered the game in the second half, only to be knocked out after receiving his second concussion of the game. One of the great all-backs of all time, rugby. Yeah. That's crazy. Whew. All right. Rest of you can send some of those babies on over. This was from Andrew from Auburn. Saw some real chemistry starting between Rodgers and Dobbs. Saw Aaron move around in the pocket to open up receivers. Saw defense play with some grit in the fourth. Saw the run game get used well. Saw hope. Also saw a bad snap on a field goal try, and an offensive line on their heels. Finally saw Buffalo receivers running open. It was a huge step, but we are not making it to elite this season, in my humble opinion. I think that's an accurate assessment. I would agree with all that. Yeah, I'd agree with all that. All right. And I think what's the frustrating part in this whole thing, you look at, I just, was it Mike Sando, who covers the NFL for The Athletic. Chiefs finished first and the Packers second in offensive EPA last season. Okay. Now you look at this year. Well, first, both traded their number one wide receivers. Look at this year. Kansas City is number one on offense by an even wider margin. Green Bay is 22nd and struggling. So EPA, expected points added. In case you don't know what that is. Expected points added. It's for analytic people out there. The thing is with Kansas City, yeah, they traded Tyreek Hill, but they also brought in a couple of veterans, and one of them happened to be from Green Bay. But, they're like, okay, we still got to surround our quarterback, our MVP quarterback. If he's not top two, or if he's not one, he's top two. Patrick Mahomes, we still got to surround him with some players. And they still went in the draft, and they got Sky Moore. And then, of course, the Chiefs was it Friday? Trade for Kadarius Toney from the Giants. They're still surrounding the guy with wideouts. That was a difference. That was a different mindset between the Chiefs and the Packers. Trading away their number ones. Yet the Chiefs still went out there and found a couple receivers, improved the depth with some younger guys, but brought in veterans to kind of, get that experience right away. So they didn't have to rely on inexperience for their season. Which way's working? I think it's pretty obvious. All right, we got to take a break. Our final break here. Last call for any of your Halloween stuff. Then we'll finish up the program with some closing statements after these few words. Wrapping things up here on this Halloween, G-Man, to answer your question, Hutz is going as a Power Ranger, which I'm not too sure why, because he doesn't watch Power Rangers, but I think he just wanted to get a costume that came with a sword. I think that was pretty much his motivation there. So that's what he's going as. It's Power Ranger. All right, we got World Series Game 3 tonight. Let's cover some base before we get to some closing statements coming up here. Game 3 tied up at 1 apiece after a come-from-behind victory for the Phillies in Game 1. Astros came back to get the 5-2 victory on the other night. So Game 3 tonight. First pitch is around 7:03. 7:03. Also, Bucks are back in action tonight, too, taking on the Detroit Pistons. You can catch that game right here on the radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Tip-off around 7. Coverage will begin about 6:30. So we'll see if the Bucks can improve to 6-0 on the early parts of their season. We'll hear from Packers head coach Matt LaFleur later on today. Maybe get some injury updates on Devondre Campbell and Elton Jenkins. Those two guys, Alan Lazard perhaps too. But, we'll get some we'll see what he has to say later on today. But, yeah. Some other stuff on the docket that's here this too. Badger football over this past weekend, but we've got interesting matchup coming up in the college football world. So first of all, the rankings kind of changed up a little bit here. Tennessee moved up into the 2 spot above Ohio State. Your top 4 right now is Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio State, and Michigan, with Clemson just on the outside at 5, still undefeated, and Alabama sitting at 6. However, we've got on Saturday Georgia, number 1, taking on the new number 2 team, Tennessee. Big game. How do you like them apples? Right now, Georgia is still favored by 9. So this is a big-time moment for Tennessee. I mean, they beat Alabama a few weeks ago. They've had some marquee wins. At the time they played them, they defeated Pittsburgh the second week of the season. Pittsburgh was ranked 17th. When they beat Florida, it was ranked 20th. When they beat LSU 40-13, LSU was ranked 25th. Alabama was ranked 3rd when they beat them. They beat Kentucky 44-6. Kentucky ranked 19th. Tennessee gets this done against Georgia. Woo. Better not have a hiccup at the end of the regular season, but that should be a fun one. Should be a real fun one. Badgers, though, we'll be getting ready against Maryland. We'll talk some Badgers with RJ Cardinal coming up tomorrow, as Justice Cleveland kind of broke it down for us. Badger Hoops had the scrimmage against UW Eau Claire, so Justice broke that down amongst all the other local and state stuff going on, college prep. But Badger volleyball, they beat Nebraska, swept Nebraska last week, right? So they had Minnesota. They beat 9th-ranked Minnesota. Another big-time win for Badger volleyball there. All right, let's do some closing statements here to wrap up Monday morning. So, first of all, maybe save this for a question for tomorrow. So I've got a couple questions. I'm going to give you guys some homework assignments here. Okay, 2 of them. We'll assuming they don't make a trade today, we'll probably, focus on, do you think they need to make a move, and if so, where? Besides maybe wide receiver. No, I'll just kind of keep it generic for tomorrow. Should Green Bay trade for a wide receiver by tomorrow's deadline? That'll be question number 1 that I want you to do some homework on. Save your answers for tomorrow. Question 2, because I'm starting to see some stuff on Twitter right now, kind of some back and forth. If you put Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes on this current Packers team, do the Packers have more or the same amount of wins? Don't give me your answers yet. I want you to think about it and hit me up with it tomorrow. But just a little homework assignment. If you put Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes on this current Packers team, okay, do they have the same or more wins? So, closing statements. You're looking at the standings in the NFL right now. We're about halfway through the season. Okay, we're at the halfway mark, ish, because we know it's odd numbers and such. Green Bay sitting there at 3-5. We could, maybe we'll do grades at some point. I know we did them in the first quarter. Yeah, well, maybe we can hit that up tomorrow too. We'll do some grades. That's your other homework assignment. Give me the grades. So the second quarter grades. Okay, we'll do that tomorrow too. So I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you, but anyways, we're halfway through, and when you look at where everything's at, kind of maybe starting to pay a little bit of attention to playoff standings, seedings, where everything's at. The one thing that's really saving Green Bay right now, in terms of maybe making the postseason, is the fact that there's a lot of average, sub-average teams in the NFC outside of Philly. Minnesota, shout out to them, 6-1. They're going to win the division. Seattle surprising everybody. The Giants, obviously, one of the biggest surprises too. You got San Francisco, who's 4-4. They're holding on to that final wild card spot. Unless something happens with like the Giants or the Cowboys, where they go on just a streak of losing a bunch of games, there might only be one spot for the playoffs up for grabs, being that 7th seed. And there's a lot of teams right now kind of in that mix. The thing that helps out Green Bay in this, if you want to stay a little positive, the thing that helps out Green Bay in this thing is that San Francisco, who's currently holding on to that, they've got the Chargers coming up. They got to bye this week, and then they got the Chargers. Dolphins are on there. Buccaneers are on there. They got to play the Cardinals a couple times. So, maybe you'd think there's maybe a few losses on there. You look at, like, the Commanders. They're 4-4. They got the Vikings. They got the Eagles. They got the Giants a couple times. They got the 49ers. They got the Cowboys. Who knows what to expect from the Commanders, right? You've got, the Rams, who are 3-4 right now. Buccaneers coming up this week. That's a big game for both those teams. Chiefs, Packers, Chargers. These teams, and then, you count the division games too. Green Bay's got a tough schedule. They've got a tough third quarter, but the teams that they're kind of looking up at, they've got some tough games too. So 3-5, while it is a major uphill battle, other teams have done it in years prior. Remember, the Chiefs started 1-5 one year, made the postseason. The Peyton Manning Colts one year started 1-5, made the postseason. Green Bay's got to take care of their own business. And I think if they take care of their own business, they'll have a chance to kind of creep up into maybe in that final postseason spot. And then who the hell knows what's going to happen in the postseason? The Cowboys have an interesting schedule coming up here. So they've got to bye. Mike McCarthy's got an extra week here to really think about his trip to Green Bay. But they've got Green Bay, then they're at Minnesota, then they've got the Giants in their next 3 games. Then they still have the Titans and the Eagles yet on their schedule too. I mean, it's still there. As frustrating as these first 8 games have been for Green Bay and for fans, don't necessarily count them out yet. I know a couple weeks ago we said must-win games. But the way everything's kind of been playing out in the rest of the NFC, don't count them out yet, but it won't matter if they can't take care of their own business. It's kind of like, the Brewers in an essence. We were like, Phillies just kept losing and losing, and the Brewers were just hanging around. They couldn't take advantage of it. Green Bay can't get in that situation. They got to get this win against the Lions going. This is a must-win game against a team like the Lions. Because the next 3 after that, if you take 2 out of 3, I think you'd be happy with that. I mean, you're 3-5. Maybe you can afford 2 more losses. Maybe finish 10-7. And you look at the fourth quarter too. Whew, you got the Rams who might be playing for their season. You're at Miami who might be playing for a postseason spot on Christmas Day. I mean, look at those speedy wide receivers. And then you finish up with Minnesota and Detroit. Take care of your business. There was some stuff that we can build upon. There was some decent stuff last night. I know moral victories don't count. Only wins and losses are the only numbers that count. But maybe, just maybe, you add those in, you pick up a win against the Lions, and as Aaron said last night, get that win. That's when the momentum starts to kick in. With some stuff starting to maybe click, and that's being the ever optimistic. But just maybe just a little bit of scotch. And then you turn that into a win, maybe you can get on a little momentum streak. Have a good Halloween, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.